Okay guys, this is going to be a Glock complete detail strip, and I always get requests for this, to do this in HD, so I figured I'd just go ahead and use my OD Green G17 as the example, and we'll go ahead and do a detail strip. Okay, first thing you're going to do is take your magazine out, make sure the gun's empty, and it is. Okay, point gun in the safe direction, pull the trigger. Okay, next what you're going to do is, see there's two levers here, one on each side of the gun, right there and right there. Okay, you are going to pull the slide back 1/8 of an inch, take your finger on one side and your thumb on the other and push down on those, release the slide, and it will come off the front of the frame. Easy as that. Next, you want to take out your recoil spring and guide rod, and then you want to take out your barrel, just like that. Okay, now that right there is just a basic field strip. That would be for just your normal cleaning, you know, and after you've been at the range and you want to clean the gun, that's as far as you would have to go. But every once in a while, you'll want to do a detail strip so you can get in there and you can clean everything inside the gun. Okay, now all you're going to need for the rest of the detail strip is either what I'm using, which is the Glock tool that Goro got a hold of and chewed on, or a 3/30 seconds punch. Okay, this is just a Glock tool. You can order this online. I use glockparts.com to get all my Glock stuff from. Okay, first we're going to start with the slide. Okay, and as you can see, this right here, this little metal tab, this is the rearmost part of the striker. The front of the striker up here is what hits the primer and ignites the round. This is the rearmost part of the striker. Take the punch underneath it and push up. Hear it click. Okay, now as you can see down in there, there's a wee little spacer sleeve in there. It's around the back of the striker. You want to take your punch in between the lip here of the striker and that little spacer sleeve and put it in there. Okay, now what you're going to do, put your thumb on top of the slide plate cover right here. Okay, push down. There's a spring in there, which is this on the striker. Push down on this. Slide this forward with your thumb. Okay, it's as easy as that. Here's the slide plate cover. When you push down here on this spacer sleeve, it relieves the pressure from this part of pushing up against that slide plate cover, and you can just push it off. Okay, now all you got to do is take your thumb, push up like that, and there's your striker. I will take this apart for you at the end of the video and show you how to take this apart and reassemble it. Okay, next we're going to take out this part here, and I will tell you what the name of these parts are as I take everything out. Okay, this here is the extractor depressor plunger, the extractor depressor plunger spring, and spring-loaded bearing. These do come apart. If I can get in there. Be careful when you pull this out because it will tend to go flying. Okay, so there's the spring-loaded bearing, extractor depressor plunger spring, and plunger. This part right here, when it's installed in the gun, is the part that's up against the back of the extractor. Okay, next, here's your extractor right here. We're going to take that out. Okay, turn the slide over like this, and what you'll see here is your firing pin safety. This is what blocks the firing pin from firing until it's pushed in. This is spring loaded, this piece right here. All you're going to do is push in on it, and your extractor just fell right out. Right here it is. There's the actual extractor. It pulls out the empty casing when the gun's fired. Okay. Now, there's the firing pin safety and spring. We're going to turn the slide over. See if I can get that to fall out. If not, just take something in there, pry it out a little bit, and there it is. Firing pin safety and spring, and the spring does come out. Put the spring aside. There it is. Okay, now except for the sights, this is a complete detail stripped slide. Okay, now we're going to move on to the frame. Let me put some of these parts to the side here so I have some room. Now when you do the frame of the gun, there's a couple of things you want to remember. Top pin, first out, first in. This is the first pin you want to push out and the first one you want to put in. And I will explain to you why as I detail strip the frame. This is the locking block pin, this is the slide stop pin, and this is the trigger group pin. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go from left to right, put the punch in there. You do not need a hammer for this. Just kind of, this gun has not been detail stripped yet. Sometimes they'll be kind of stiff at first. Just kind of push with even pressure until it moves. And you can just pull it out from the other side. Okay, there's what this pin looks like. This is a steel pin. Okay, next we're going to push out the slide stop pin. This is the slide stop right here. Now sometimes when you push this pin, you need to also move this up and down, because this comes down in here and it's looped around here. I'll show you when I get this apart. It'll make the pin free up easier. So just put your punch on there, give some pressure. Okay, there you can see it broke free. Now I'm going to put the punch in there and continue to push it through. Like I said, guys, when the gun is new, or the first time you detail strip, these pins will be kind of stiff in there. Here's what this one looks like. This is also a metal pin. Okay, now what we're going to do is take out the trigger group pin. This is a polymer pin. And there we go. And there's that pin. Okay, now the next thing you want to do is take out your locking block. Just put the punch under there, pry upward, and there it is. Your locking block. Okay, now here is the slide stop lever. Okay, and as this sits down in here, right below there, this spring goes under the top pin right here. So when you put this gun together, this slide stop lever is going to be down in here, like that. That's why you want to put your top pin in first, because then you install this and the spring slides underneath of that pin. Because if you don't put this pin in first and you already have this in, this spring's going to be sticking up in the air and it's not going to go under that pin. That's why when you put the gun back together, that pin is the first to go in. Okay, now we're ready to take the trigger group out. It's pretty easy. All you want to do is come back here to the ejector and pull up, and there it is. Easy as that, guys. There's your trigger group. Here's the trigger bar. This is the trigger connector. And this is the trigger bar housing. There's your trigger spring. And of course the ejector. Trigger. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to take this apart. You're going to grab on the trigger bar right here. And you're going to kind of twist and turn like that. And there it is. Trigger spring, trigger bar, and connector. Now if you wanted to go to a lighter trigger pull, right here is the trigger bar you would replace, or the connector, I'm sorry. The connector you would replace with a 3.5 pound connector. And to get that out, to get this out is very easy. Sorry guys. You just come to the other side, right there. And you're going to push. See it there? Dropped right out. There it is. Get this to focus in on it. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how to remove the trigger bar from the trigger housing. Here's your trigger spring right here, and there's how it's connected through that hole right there. Now what we are going to do is to take this to its slimmest side like this. See the opening right there? And that little curve? We're going to come down here and we're going to pull it right out of there, just like that. So here's what you're left with. Now you could remove this spring and change it. The only thing you have to remember is that the spring always goes in like an S. Like, see how it curves like that? With the opened end toward the front. And in the back, see the opened end is right there. So you got to remember if you put on a new trigger spring. Okay, here's your trigger bar and trigger. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take out the slide lock lever. This is how you disassemble the gun. This is pretty easy. There's it on the inside, and this is pretty easy to get out as well. What you're going to do is come down with a punch in here. This is a spring. See, I'm going to push on it. You are going to push this down to relieve the pressure. And then you just kind of wiggle this around a little bit. and it drops out. That's all you have to do to get that out. Let me show you a close-up of the spring down in there. There's a spring, there's kind of a hump right there, and it goes up higher where the slide lock sits. This is the slide lock spring. This can also come out. I'm just not going to take it out right now. There's no need to. But you just take something slim, put it down in there, and pry up right there, and it pops right out. Here is the slide lock. Now, the only thing you have to remember with this is when you reassemble the gun, this little lip on there, it's only on one side. See, that's smooth? This little lip always faces back toward the grip of the gun. Like if you were holding the gun to shoot, this lip would be facing you. It's the only thing you got to remember. Then the last thing that I'm not actually going to take out, but it's just as easy, is right here, the magazine release right here. Right down in there. See that little, there's a little spring. See if I can get this to focus for you guys. Okay, hang on 1 second, guys. Okay, had to get out my Quark 123, get some light down in there. See if I can do this all in front of the camera. See that little wire right there? That's a spring. Now, all you would do to get that out of there is push it over just a little bit, and then it pops out back this way. And this is your magazine release, and it'll just push right out of the frame. Then when you reinstall it, that wire will be sticking back here, that spring. Then you just come in and you move it over and push it down, and it locks right in and locks that in there. Okay? See the cutout where it gets released? Hang on. I need a third hand right about now. Trying to get this to focus for you guys. See the little cutout right there, down in there? That's what would release that spring, that little square notch. Okay? And it would take your magazine release out. Now, I do not recommend putting on an extended magazine release. And I have a very good reason for that. If you put an extended magazine release on this, and you're a right-handed shooter, and you carry your gun, there is a good chance that while in the holster, with you moving around, you will hit this mag release. Some of the cops in my area had an extended mag release on their Glock, and they had to put packaging tape around the magazine and the bottom of the grip until they could get their armor to change this back. Because when they was sitting down, their holster was pushing the button. One cop pulled his gun out, and the magazine fell straight to the ground. So, oh, and another thing, on the police force, you are not permitted to work on your own gun. Doesn't matter what you know or how much you can do to a gun. Only the police department armorer can work on the handgun that's issued you by the police department. So that is why he had to wait for the police department armorer to put on the standard mag release. Yeah, so luckily when the cop pulled his gun, it wasn't in a situation where he needed it. He drew the gun on somebody that he had pulled over late at night, and as soon as he drew it out of his holster and brought it up, whoosh, pow, magazine went straight to the ground, so he put packaging tape around it. So I recommend you not use an extended magazine release if you carry these guns, these Glocks. Okay? Just my opinion. Yours may vary. Alrighty. Now what we are going to do is we are going to reassemble the Glock. First you want to take your trigger housing and your trigger bar. Now this is pretty easy because you can see right where it goes right here. So what you're going to do is put it in that little slot right there. Just push it down. That's it, it's good to go. Okay, next we're going to connect the trigger bar back in the same way it came out. It's a little bit hard, guys, when I'm in front of I'm doing this through the viewfinder of the camera, so bear with me. Like that, easy as that. You're back on the spring. Now the spring goes down, you give it a twist, and you're in. That's how it should sit right here. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to install it back into the frame. What am I doing here? And just push down till it clicks like that. Okay guys, now we are going to go ahead and put the slide lock back in over the spring, which is this piece here. And like I said, always remember that little lip faces the grip, and this is how you do that. You just take the gun, get it started like that, up and let it go in until it hits that spring. You come in with the punch, push down, let it go in, okay, lock it in. That's it, just push it. Okay guys, sorry about that, memory was full on my camera. Okay, now what we're going to do is put the locking block back into the gun, which it just goes right here. You just get it started, lock it down in. Okay, now this is where you're going to put in the top pin first, right there. So you want to take the steel pin that is skinnier than the other steel pin. Now I'm just going to go from the right side of the gun here, get it started, push it in as far as I can get it with my thumb, and then I'm going to use the Glock tool and push on it a little bit more. You'll hear it click because as you've seen, it had the two ridges on there, and that's what made it lock in. Okay, now is where you're going to put the slide stop lever in. See that spring right there? This spring tucks in under that pin. That's why you have to have that top pin in first. So now you're going to slide it right down in to place, as easy as that. Down in the groove right there. There it is. And you look through there, and I had to push it forward a little bit, and you can see straight through. So now you want to take the fatter steel pin right here. I'm going to go from the right hand side of the gun, and I'm going to install that pin right here, push it in with my thumb as far as I can go. Then I'm going to use come back with the Glock tool until you hear it lock in on those grooves. And that's that one. Then we're going to come back here to the trigger group pin, and that is the smaller polymer pin. Okay, I'm just going to go from the right hand side again, get it started, like that. Now this one does not lock in. You do have to just look at this one by eye. A little bit more. And just a touch more. Okay, that's good. That's in there. Now your frame is completely reassembled. Now we're ready to move on to the slide. Okay, the first thing that you're going to do with the slide is take your firing pin block, firing pin stop, however you want to call it, and you are going to install the spring right back into it, and if you push down, it clicks in. It actually locks in there. Then what you want to do is take your slide and just go ahead and drop that baby in there. Next, what you're going to do is go ahead and turn your extractor like this. Put your extractor in, just hold it right there at the edge, and then push down on the spring of the firing pin block, and there you go. It locks your extractor right in. Easy as that. Now what we're going to do is come to the back here, and we're going to put these parts back together. I am going to put the spring-loaded bearing back into the spring, and I'm going to put that spring back on the extractor, depressor, plunger. Remember this end. Remember what this looks like, okay? Because I'm going to show you something here in a minute. This is the extractor, depressor, plunger. Okay. Now what we're going to do is just drop that right there into the hole, and then I'm still going to show you how to take this apart at the end of the video. Striker assembly. Okay, what we're going to do now is put the striker back in. Only go one way. Seat it down in there. You can see how it's spring loaded. You can't push too far when you push pressure down to release that plate. Okay. Now you have those parts in there. Now all you got to do is take your slide plate cover, put it back on the gun. I'm going to be using the punch for this part. Now what you want to do is press down on the striker and push pressure on the plate forward a little bit. Okay, now you're going to press this down in and give it some more pressure here, and listen for the click. You're done. The slide is totally reassembled. Okay. Now what you can do is take your barrel, drop it back down in to the slide, guide rod and recoil spring. Whoa, I see a piece of lint here. Sorry. First, let me show you something. See that little cutout right down there? That's where this assembly is you're gonna push pressure in on it and drop it down in there, just like that. Take the frame, set it on your frame, pull her back. You're done. Function test. Here's the trigger reset on the Glock. Pull the trigger, hold it. Rack the slide, the trigger go forward. That's a trigger reset. Pull the trigger, hold it. Rack the slide, release the trigger. Your trigger's reset. I have a magazine disassembly video up if you'd like to look at it, a detailed video, so I'm not going to disassemble this magazine. And that's it, guys. That's all you got to do. Okay guys, as promised, here is how to take the striker assembly apart. Just take it like this, pull these springs back, and as you can see, these spring cups are cut down the center right there and right there, and that's all that holds them on. So they drop right off like that. Let your spring come forward, pull it off, and then what you can do is take your firing or your striker sleeve off the front, and there it is. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now I'll put it back together. Put it on like this, the open end toward the back, like that. Put your spring back on. Push down on the spring till you got some room there. Then you're going to take the first cup and lay it over the spring there. Then we're going to take the second cup and put it down in there as well. And there's your striker, disassembly, and reassembly. It's not very often you're going to have to take this apart. So, just in case you need to, there it is. Alright guys, I hope this video helped you out. And if you have any questions at all, just send me a message. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.